Good morning, students, and let's continue our chapter 8. Dear students, yesterday we studied about the fourth point about the features of the Constitution, and in that the fourth point, that is the center with strong federal structure. We studied that, and we also saw the Constitution demarcates the powers of the central and the state governments into different lists of subjects. And there were three: union list, state list, and the concurrent list. And we saw that the union list comprises of 97 subjects, state list comprises of 66, and the concurrent list has 47 subjects in it. I also had given you the questions to answer, which type of subjects come into which list. I suppose you have done the work. And as yesterday I told you, we will be doing today the residual powers. Now, what is that residual powers or residual powers? Subjects that are neither included in the division of powers of the state nor in the union are known as residual powers. Let's see now. Here. Okay, the subjects which are not specifically allotted to union or state are included in residual powers. Make a bracket to this. Matters that are not included in the division of powers are known as residual powers. The central government is given the power to legislate on these residual subjects. Underline that the central government is given the power to legislate on these residual subjects. So students, what I told you, first and foremost I told you the subjects that are neither they are included in the division of the power of the state nor in the central of the union. And so therefore they are known as the residual powers. Now, and the central government has the power to legislate, to make the laws on those type of subjects. Now, what type of subjects are not included? Here you have to be very attentive. Listen carefully. The financial distribution of resources is done between union government and state government. The financial distribution of the resources which has been done between union and the state government. Now, excise and custom, export and import, income tax, all these major taxes are decided by central government, while sales tax, revenue tax, entertainment tax, educational tax, which are having meager financial resources, are decided by state government. So, once again, be careful, look here. Excise and custom, export and import, and income tax. All these are the major taxes. They are decided by whom? By the central government. Whereas, like the taxes like revenue tax, sales tax, entertainment tax, educational tax, they are decided by the state government. So you got to know what will come in the residual power. First and foremost, subjects which are neither included in the division of the state nor in the union. They are known as the residual powers. Now, how are they? How they are enlisted? They are enlisted like the subjects, the excise and the custom, export and import, income tax. These are the major taxes which will be decided by the central government. And the taxes like revenue tax, entertainment tax, educational tax, and the sales tax, which are having meager financial resources, they will be decided by the state government. Is this clear? Then let's go to the unified arrangement during crisis. This is also something important which you should remember. It will help you in your life when your parents or when you grow up, when you talk about such topics, you will know that. And so, better pay attention. Unified arrangements during crisis. What type of crisis? You hear sometimes. There are 3 provisions for emergencies in Constitution of India. Underline that 3 provisions. Which are they? They are given over here. First and foremost, national emergency can be declared at the time of war, external attack or armed rebellion. First is national emergencies. We saw there are three types of provisions made in the constitution of the emergencies, for the emergencies. First and foremost is a national emergency. And when can it be declared? It can be declared at the time of war, external attack and the armed rebellion. Okay? Once upon a time, that is when Indira Gandhi was ruling as a Prime Minister, that time this national emergency was announced. Then, which is the second point. Due to law and order breakdown, the state cannot function according to the constitution, so constitutional emergency is declared. First is the national emergency, second is the constitutional emergency. Underline that. Now what is this constitutional emergency, student? And when is it declared? Constitutional emergency is declared due to the law and order breakdown. When the people are not following the law and the order, they are breaking the rules, the state cannot function according to the constitution. The state. Now which is the state? For example, Gujarat is a state, Maharashtra is a different state, Madhya Pradesh. Okay? So when the state is not able to function according to the constitution, then the emergency which is declared is known as the constitutional emergency. Then comes the third one. Due to increase in prices, there is monetary value erosion. At that, financial emergency is declared. The third is the financial emergency. You will underline this, make a bracket. Now, first is the national emergency, second is the constitutional emergency, and third is the financial emergency. When is the financial emergency declared, students? It is due to increase in prices. There is a monetary value erosion. At that time, the financial emergency has been declared. In short, when there is an increase in the price, there is an increase in the prices, that is the time financial emergency has been declared. Now, the central government, look over here, the central government has been given more powers to deal with these emergencies. At the time of emergency, India is almost turned into a unitary system. Remember this, the central government has been given more power, not the state government. And which is the central government? Government that is in Delhi. The rules that come from Delhi, okay, which is also known as the union government, has been given the more power to deal with these emergencies. At the time of emergency, India is almost turned into a unitary system. Then, now, let's see. Students, so far we have seen in the features of the constitution, that is, first we saw it's a written document, second one we saw size of the constitution, third one we saw single citizenship, fourth point we saw about the center with strong federal structure, which I already explained you as I began the class. And now into the residual powers, we saw about the unified arrangement during crisis. I explained you what is that residual power. I already told you. And then we saw that unified arrangement during the crisis. That is the fifth point. Now, in the fifth point, we saw the three types of emergencies. National emergency, constitutional emergency, and financial emergency. And when it is declared. I suppose these points are clear to you. Now I am moving to the parliamentary system. Okay? So be with me, pay attention, students. Parliamentary system. India has a parliamentary system of governance. India has a parliamentary system of governance, and make a bracket to that. In a parliamentary system, the parliament is the supreme authority representing people. The legislature at the union is the parliament. Make a bracket. The legislature at the union is the parliament. The parliament is bicameral, means it has two houses. What is the meaning of bicameral, students? The parliament is a bicameral. You have to underline that. Sometimes it is asked which are the two houses of the parliament, or what do you understand by bicameral parliament? The parliament is bicameral means it has two houses, and which are they? The upper house and the lower house. The upper house and the lower house. Underline that. Now what is that upper house? Upper house is called Rajya Sabha. Lower house is called or is known as Lok Sabha. Upper house is called as Rajya Sabha. Upper house Rajya Sabha. Lower house is a Lok Sabha. Remember this, students, because we are going to study it in the next chapter also. It will be asked to you again and again. So remember, upper house is known as or called as Rajya Sabha. Lower house is known as Lok Sabha. Now, though the government is carried on in the name of the president at the union and the governor in the states, actual administration is carried by the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister at the union and the Chief Minister in the states. Make a bracket, students. I want you to remember this, students. Make a bracket. I want you to remember this. See, students, in the name of the president at the union, the governor in the states, actual administration is carried by the Council of Ministers. Underline, Council of Ministers headed by, that is being led by the Prime Minister at the union and the Chief Minister at the state level. Students, you know who is the Chief Minister of Gujarat? I suppose you know who is the Chief Minister. And who is the Prime Minister? Almost every day you hear a Prime Minister's name. You should be knowing this all. These are the basic things. I'm going to ask you the question. I'm going to give you your class test. I'm going to ask you the question about the different ministers at different level. So be ready with the list. And so students, at the state level we have chief ministers. At the union level we have prime minister with the council of the ministers. Remember this. Then come to the next line, student. The council of ministers is responsible to the legislature that comprises representatives of the people. The president selects 12 people. Underline, the president selects 12 people who are experts and experienced from various fields for Rajya Sabha. They are expert and experienced from the various fields for Rajya Sabha. President selects 12 people for the Rajya Sabha. Now Rajya Sabha is which house, student? Upper house. Rajya Sabha is a permanent house in which 1/3 members retire every 2 years. The same number of members for election. Thus, each member has 6 years of tenure in Rajya Sabha. Remember this. In Rajya Sabha, each member can rule or remain over there for 6 years. Underline that. His period is of 6 years. It can be asked in the MCQs or fill in the blanks. 2. The powers of Rajya Sabha are less compared to the Lok Sabha, which is special, superior and decisive. Rajya Sabha cannot be completely dissolved. Remember that. Students, Rajya Sabha cannot be completely resolved. You cannot completely resolve the Rajya Sabha. Okay? I want you to remember all this point. As I told you, there are, what is bicameral? The two houses of the parliament. Which are the two houses of the parliament, students? Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Which is, Lok Sabha is what type of house? Lower house. Whereas upper house is called as Rajya Sabha. Prime Minister and the cabinet ministers are headed at what level? At the union. And chief minister in the states. President selects 12 people who are experts from the different fields. Remember this. Okay? Then the Rajya Sabha is a permanent house in which 1/3 member retire every 2 years. 1/3 member retire every 2 years. Whereas the other members have the 6 years of tenure in Rajya Sabha. 6 years of period in Rajya Sabha. The power of Rajya Sabha are less compared to the Lok Sabha, which is special, superior and decisive, underlined. Rajya Sabha cannot be completely dissolved. Let's come to the 7th point. Independent and impartial judiciary. Independent and impartial judiciary. Students, what is the meaning of judiciary? We are going to see the three organs of the government in chapter 10, where we will see about the legislature, executive and judiciary. So judiciary is what? Judiciary is the one who punishes. When does the judiciary punish? When the laws which have been framed by the legislature, when they are not followed, that is the time judiciary punishes. We will see about that in detail in chapter 10. But judiciary has to be impartial. Now, the Constitution has provided for the establishment of an independent and impartial judiciary. Make a bracket to this. The Constitution has provided for the establishment of an independent and impartial judiciary. There is Supreme Court at the top, then there are high courts at the state level, and under its jurisdiction are the district courts at district level and taluka level. There are local and special courts. So students, you have to remember this. This I will also draw a diagram and show it to you, which will help you to remember. At the topmost level, you have High Court. First is the Supreme Court. There is a Supreme Court at the top level. Then you have the High Court. Supreme Court, okay, that is about the central. If you have any problem which has been not solved in the High Court, then you go to the Supreme Court, the topmost level. Then comes the High Court, that is on the state level, and under its jurisdiction, okay, under it you have under the High Court you have District Court, which is on the district level, and at the taluka level there are local and special courts. This you have to remember. Then what happens? The judgments of the Supreme Court are binding to all the subordinate court of the nations. So look here, the judgment, whatever the judgment Supreme Court gives, Supreme Court's verdict is the last. And you have been seeing many of the cases, when the Supreme Court says something, then nobody will question. We will follow whatever the Supreme Court tells us. And so the judgment of Supreme Court are binding to all the subordinate courts of the nation. In case of conflict between the union and state government, matters relating the Constitution and interpretation of statutes, the final decision is vested with Supreme Court. Okay, so the Supreme Court will decide. Whatever the Supreme Court tells will be decided. The Supreme Court is the protector and guardian of the Constitution. Most important line. The Supreme Court is the protector and the guardian of the Constitution. So Supreme Court, student, is at the highest, topmost level. First comes Supreme Court, then comes High Court. Under the High Court you have district, taluka level court and the special courts. When you at the village level, in the village and all, you go to sometimes to Gram Panchayat or to a Panch, you have Sarpanch and all, you go to them and tell your problems. They try to solve. But then if you are not happy, you go to the taluka level. There also if you do not get the proper justice, you go to the state level, district level and then to the state level. That is the High Court. And so when the cases, very rarely it happens, but when there is a lot of problem and the cases cannot be solved in the High Court, then they are transferred to the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court, whatever Supreme Court says, we have to follow. The final decision is based with Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is the protector and guardian of the Constitution. Students, we are going to stop our class over here. The 8th point, 8th point, 9th and 10th we will see tomorrow. They are like about the amendments in the constitution, about the universal adult suffrage which we have already seen, about secularism also which we have seen. So that will go little faster. I want you to remember whatever I have taught you today. I will just show you the board and I will also send you the image of the board. Students, have a look at the board. Okay, I have written about the residual powers and the national emergency. I only wrote about the national emergency, but I have explained you well about the national emergency, financial emergency and the constitutional emergency. I suppose you understood it well. I have given you 2 questions to be answered. You have to answer them in brief. They are of 3 marks question. Therefore, write it in the point form. Have a good day. See you tomorrow.